Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Eileen and I'm one of the coaches here at Tailored. And joining me in leading this webinar is Russell, our founder, Drew, who is hidden, is doing our slides, and Jessica, our operations manager, is running the chat and Q&A. We're all excited to be here with you, looking forward for the next hour, where we'll talk about engaging churches, donors, and advocates. And throughout the webinar, we want to hear from you. In our Zoom window, you should see a chat
Hey,
button.
Eileen, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
Because we have closed captioning, you may want to go slower.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yep.
As a first language English speaker and a woman, I talk very quickly. That's just a fact. I will slow down. Thank you. So in your Zoom window, you should see a chat button. We've mentioned it a few times now, but we want to make sure that you click on the little blue bauble that says hosts and panelists and mark it to everyone. That way we make sure we all see the comments you're putting. The other button I want to draw your attention to is the Q&A button. If at any point you have a question, please put it in this box. If you put it in the chat, it's easily missed, and we don't want to have that happen. This is a live webinar where we can all learn from each other, so please share helpful information with one another and ask as many questions as you want. We will answer some of the questions through the text and some live, but the majority of them will be answered by the end of the webinar. And we'll do our best to stay on and answer all the questions before we leave. We'll also be giving you a few poll questions throughout the webinar to get feedback around your fundraising experiences and goals. So during our hour, we're going to look at 4 different things. We're going to look at the realities of church partnership, how to connect with the church, what materials to have available, and important information to share with a committee. We get so many questions around how to connect with the church, so we're excited to offer this webinar to address as many of those questions as we can. There are 5 different scenarios we want to look at today: connecting with your home church, a past church, a church that someone you know attends, a church that is in your denominational network, and a church that you have no connection to at all. The materials for connecting with these churches are all very similar, but the initial contact will look slightly different with each one.
Okay, so before we dive in to how we engage a church, I want to take a poll. And this poll is, what is your average? Take kind of a guess at the average monthly church giving that the average a church gives to you monthly. Is there a better way to say that, Jessica or Eileen?
I think you
But
hit it with
people understand because they're answering.
yeah.
But this is an
I think
average
they understand.
from the churches. It is shaping up like I thought it was going to be shaping up.
Yeah. Not a lot of surprises there.
Yeah. Um, let's see. We have just a few more that can answer if you want to answer. 89 of 109 people have answered so far. So we're getting close to 100% answering. Maybe everyone could just think in their head what we should do from now on is everyone guess what they think it is the biggest and most popular. So okay. If you want to, did we end the poll? We can share the results. So I thought it would be 100 to 500. I'm actually really happy to see that 17% are saying that their church average is over 500, which is fantastic. And we do have some that give more than that. So that's kind of what we see. Isn't that what you see, Jessica, Eileen?
It's interesting because we polled all of our coaches this past week, and I would say, yeah, this is pretty much in line with what all of them see with their clients. So
Right, right. All right, so let's explore the realities of church partnership because there are some benefits and there are challenges in any relationship. Um, because this isn't just about a church giving you money. When you become partners, you are an extension of the ministry, their ministry, and their an extension of yours, right? So here's some benefits and challenges. Generally speaking, churches can have a higher capacity for partnership, anywhere from higher to over $1,000 a month. Sorry, from 100 to over $1,000 a month. We see, as the poll said, in that over 100, under 500 range. The challenge with that is it can often take more time investment on the front end to secure a church partnership. And if the church discontinues their giving and they're a larger gift, it can be difficult to replace them. Um, Often, a benefit is they have the capacity to cover one-time expenses that come up down the road, maybe new schooling expenses, vehicle purchase, building repair, something like that. And they can be a great place to reach out when things like this come up. Honestly, they really are. A challenge is that they have a limited window to approach before they set their budget for the coming year. So they might have these, you might have these one-time expenses that they kind of take from their budget somewhere, but just in general, they set their budget at a very specific time. So if you've reached out and they have already set their budget, obviously we need to ask when we can reconnect with them. Another benefit, they may be able to provide resources while you're on furlough, like a house or a car, building space for meetings or events. But that might also require more responsibility from you while you are on furlough, like that you're attending conferences, meetings, classes. I see this a lot in denominational, like when you're funded partially by a denomination, they require you to go to denominational churches, just to speak, not even necessarily to fundraise while you're on furlough. A benefit is they can partner in other non-financial ways, like sending short-term teams to be part of a ministry. The challenge, I'm sure all, all of you are thinking of challenges already. Um, Sending short-term teams to be a part of your ministry is actually the challenge. Sometimes this is more of a hassle than a help, but obviously being honest about that. And another benefit, and a great one, is the church can offer spiritual guidance and accountability, and they lend credibility as well. So that leads to our second poll question. How many church partners do you have? I am really interested in this. I'm going to say three. The 1 to 5 option is going to be the most popular.
Absolutely. Russell, I'm impressed that there are a few people with more than 20.
I'm overwhelmed that they
I
have
know,
more
I'm
than
like,
20.
that's wild.
That is wild.
Wow.
That is wild. That is the main way some people fundraise,
Yeah.
of course. All right. I'll give you. No, Jessica, she didn't give you any more time. Uh,
Fun.
okay, so let's share these results. Uh, so you can see 65%, 1 to 5 partnerships, 18%, 6 to 10. More than 20. 6 of you have more than 20 church partnerships. Good gracious. I would love to do a meeting with the 6 of you and talk to you about how that happened. I'm sure very intentionally. All right. Um, Eileen, talk to us about how to connect.
I would just like to clarify that Jennifer has said that it's us old timers.
I wasn't going to say that.
I was like, that is great. I totally relate to that. Um, we want to look at how we're going to connect to the churches and learn the church culture. We've looked at the realities of church partnerships, and now, if you've decided to move forward with it, the first thing you should do is learn the church culture. Do your homework. Learn as much as you can about the church before you make the initial contact. Look at their website. What is their denomination, their theology? Is there a missions culture in the church? If not, do you want to invest the time helping to create one? What kind of projects are they part of? What is their strategic focus? unreached people groups, discipleship, evangelism, church planting. This is a more important question than I think we realize. If we're inviting ownership of something that the church doesn't have a strong connection to, the relationship isn't likely to last. If your ministry is anti-trafficking and your church's strategic focus is church planting, then it's likely they won't partner because you are outside of their focus. After you've done that research, if you know someone in the church, talk to them to find out more. What is the best way to approach the church? They may know. What should you ask? Is there a missions committee? Is there an application process? Do they even partner with people outside of the church? This is all really important information for you to gather to determine if this church is going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, this is so incredible. Like just to think through this, if all you did from this webinar is just think through all this stuff, I think it would be a huge win. I love that, Eileen. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Partnership with development with individuals and churches have something in common. It's called a relationship. I like to say churches are people too. Whether you're starting, building, or maximizing a relationship, it's a vital part of a sustainable ministry. So after you've done your research, the next thing you want to do is identify your strongest relationship within the church. This is true for a home church, a past church, a church where you have friends or family, or a church within your denomination. In your home church, this is ideally someone on staff, a head pastor, missions pastor, worship pastor, someone who is probably an influencer, can help uh, can help you know what the next best step is. In a past church, this is similar. If a connection is still strong, you go straight to the person on staff. If the connection is distant or weak or there's new leadership, find someone in the church who can introduce you to the right people. Um, we'd probably call this an advocate. Um, and they can make introductions in person. You can visit the church in the church service, or you can just stop by during the week. Or this can be done virtually through a simple email to both of you making the connection. For if this is your if this is in your friend or family's church, um, ask them to personally introduce you to someone in the leadership. And in a denominational church, the best option here is to have your pastor refer you or someone in denominational leadership refer you. This can happen with a phone call, a letter, or an email, anything making that initial connection kind of vouching for you, or you have made, or you may have a connection with the district leader who can introduce you. Another option is to reach out directly. Denominations usually have a public list of every church in their network that you can use to get information to reach out. I will say this, like this is a lot of advocacy language. And so there's a difference between referrals and advocates. Referrals is when somebody gives you a name and you reach out to that person. An advocate is when somebody that you know reaches out to somebody they know and they make a connection. So they copy you on an email and introduce you. They copy you on a text and introduce you. They set up a lunch. They set up a time. We are looking for advocates as much as possible and not just referrals. Advocates, especially in developing church partnerships, because it's a big decision for a church. An advocate is way more powerful. So, what do you do if there's no relationship? Is it worth it? Absolutely. You really never know what God is going to do, and we have stories of seeing God do unexpected things when when we step out in faith. But where do you start? If the church is local, show up in person. Um, can I just side note and correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica or Eileen? Um, we have a lot of different layers of strategy in fundraising. We have individuals and going from people you know really well to people you almost don't know. Then we have churches, and we have these layers of churches, right? So, out of individuals and churches and advocates, what I'm getting ready to tell you is the very, very last thing you would do in a fundraising strategy. So, just keep that in mind. If the church is local, you can show up in person and connect with the pastor if at all possible. Um, Interestingly enough, Thursdays seem to be a great day for churches. Wednesdays could also be good, but Mondays and Fridays are typically days off with people in the office, or Monday or Friday. If you're not able to connect in person, even for a brief moment, consider asking when is the best time to come back. The initial interaction goes a long way rather than just leaving information without the pastor having the opportunity to put face to your name. If you aren't able to come back, just go ahead and leave a packet of information, which we'll talk about in a minute, with a message that you stop by and we'll follow up soon. And ask for the pastor's card so you can follow up in a couple of days. If you aren't able to go to a church in person, call and find out which is the best, mailing information or sending it via email. Then get a name, email, or address and phone number of who to follow up with. If they prefer mail and you're out of the country, find a partner who'd be willing to send the information for you. Um, and don't underestimate the power of small churches, for sure. Again, everything I just shared is, uh, again, Jessica, Eileen, correct me if I'm wrong. It will be the very last strategy you have in a fundraising plan.
Absolutely. Once we've made some initial contacts with the churches, we want to make sure that we learn the process. Once you've made your initial connection, learning the process is important, as I said, but the vast majority of churches already have a process in place. So while with individuals, you are taking the reins in the process, with the churches, it's important that you let them lead you through their process because they are the ones who know it. We want to be respectful and compliant. And while we follow their leading, that doesn't mean we just sit on our hands until they reach out. It's still very important for you to continue to follow up, to make sure that the opportunity is staying in the forefront of their minds and that those next steps are happening. At the end of every conversation, you want to be asking what the next step is and when you should expect to hear back, so that if that date comes and you haven't heard back, you can immediately check in. Let's say the church says no to a financial partnership. That doesn't mean the conversation stops there. Pursue conversations with individuals inside the church.
Wow, that was a very short part that you had, and now I get to pick up again.
It was, but
I messed that up.
you had a little cough and a drink. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Okay. So church packets. When showing up to a church, whether it's a cold call or through an advocate, it's really beneficial to have a packet of information to leave with them at the end of your presentation. We don't want them to get distracted while you're presenting, so you're going to leave them at the end. And it shows that that you've invested time in making sure your communication is as clear as possible, which shows maturity and professionalism. And to be honest, this gives them a glimpse into how you will run your ministry as well. I really can't overstate that. When you put together something that's really, thoughtful, um, and and it communicates really well, that goes a long way. Um, That just goes a long way. It would with you. So, um, yeah, just want to say that. Here's a list of 5 things that we recommend in your church packet. One, handwritten note thanking them for their consideration. Love a good handwritten note. Next, a pastor referral letter. This isn't just helpful in connecting with other denominational churches. This goes a long way in providing credibility for your ministry to any other church as well. Prayer card, just keep it simple. A ministry brochure, like from you as an individual, um, or organization. I would probably lean more towards organization because the next thing is a one-page summary of who you are and your ministry focus. I think that we have an example. Um, Churches are interested. Yes, there we go. Okay. Churches are interested in your background, so it is important to include this information. So it starts with a brief bio that can include information about who you are as a person, your strengths, giftings, passions, your education, and adding in when you came to faith can be helpful as well. You'll also want to add a mission statement, either your organization's or your personal one. For example, my mission is to create a disciple-making movement among students and their families through high-quality education. Mission statements tend to use words that communicate the actions you are taking to make an impact in the world, train, equip, support, disciple, empower, things like that. You also want to share a 1 to 2 sentence vision statement. This tends to be focused on the impact that you want to see on those that you are serving through the ministry's actions. For example, my vision is to see families in Vietnam accept the truth of who Christ is and who he has called them to be, experiencing hope, peace, and freedom. When I work with a client on a vision statement, I always say, what are you asking God to do? Right? What are you asking God to do? And don't ask too small, right? Another important component is a pie chart breakdown of your budget. I know some of the coaches on our team use pie charts for individual financial partners as well. I don't necessarily do that, but I think it's when you're working with a church, I think it's really helpful. Condense your expenses into 4 to 6 categories, so keep it simple. While a line item budget is important to have, you only want to share it if someone has requested it. It's unnecessary to have that much detail unless someone is asking for it. But if they are asking for it, you should already have it and be willing to share it quickly. Now, most PCs or Macs have pie chart templates where you can simply plug in numbers and it puts in a pie chart. But make sure it looks sharp, professional, just like the one Drew made for us up there. There are a lot of design websites that you can use. We use Canva. I'm sure there are other good ones. Feel free to throw those in the chat for others if you know some other ways that you design these types of things. We also encourage you to think through the impact that is made through each category. So, for example, housing, taxes, and transportation make it possible to go to the people, while insurance makes it possible for you to stay with the people. And we kind of label it in that way. We always want to make the focus about impact instead of salary, because it isn't about our end goal isn't salary. Our end goal isn't to raise money for insurance. Our end goal is to see lives transformed. So we always, even when we're talking about a budget, I call it a vision-based budget. You know, um, we need to tie that budget to impact. Your line item budget that they want to see now, um, the line item budget that they want to see would be an accounting budget with just like lines and what you're spending money on. But this pie chart, we want to move it towards impact, more vision-based budget. Um, Optional to include how much you've raised so far um, in this one pager. But I don't know exactly how you change that every time you meet with somebody. So giving information, make sure there's a link you provide goes directly to your actual giving page. To cut down on clicks, make it easy for people to give. Honestly, your best bet on this is going to be a QR code with the same link. That's an embedded. I should have looked up an example of this, but you need, when you create your QR code, you need to go to the giving page, not your landing page. Eileen, do you have an example? Do you have a landing page?
Um, I I don't
I'm
have.
sorry to put you on the spot. If you don't, it's fine.
No, but I have one I can pull up in just half a second.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go to a lot of you are going to have a profile on a website from your organization. It's going to say, here's your profile. It'll have a donate button. You need to click the donate. It might have another question. You need to click that. And then it's going to come to a page where you can enter your credit card information. On the page where you enter your credit card information, listen to me. So the very first part of this webinar was amazing. This is also very amazing. On the page where you see that you can enter credit card information, that's the link that you want to provide. Okay. Do you want to share anything, Eileen? Will it be helpful or no?
I'm trying to put a link in there, but it's
Okay.
not allowing me to.
Okay. I'm going to move on.
Okay.
Go to the place where your credit card information is able to be inputted, and that is the link you want to use. I think a QR code on paper is way more beneficial than a link, typing out a link.
Yeah. I think just
Um, Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that one of the things we seem to believe is easy, that we give them to the give page or the donate page or whatever to our organization. And if we leave them at the point where they either have to find our name in a drop
Yeah.
down list or type our name in, we've already made it more complicated than it needs to be for them.
Yeah. Sometimes there's no way around that your organization doesn't allow you to go. But anyway,
Yeah.
we have stayed on this topic long enough because
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about it.
Let's,
The final thing is make sure you include your organization's logo on this thing. Because honestly, I think on our last webinar, it was on year-end giving, and the stat, if y'all help me remember, Eileen, we just did it. A branded return envelope. So putting your organization's logo on the return envelope, you got 7 times more response or something like that.
do something like that.
So here's the idea is that you definitely want it to be branded for credibility.
Yeah. I think Kimberly has just said also remember to be flexible because some people don't know how to use a QR code. We're probably talking about the older generation when we say that again, which means a conversation of showing them how to use it.
Yeah.
Um, one,
Which, if you don't know how to use it, you just open up your camera and hold it over.
yeah, little
Um,
yellow box pops up.
yeah. All right, Eileen, you're up.
I think last thing I'll say on that, I think what we have to remember about the older generation is if we are not in it, which I am, so if you are not in it, um, it is very important to know that we love when people younger than us help us understand the process. It shows your interest in us being involved. So I think that's important. But as Russell said, that's enough on that. We want to look at meeting preparation and execution. So after you've made all your initial contacts, you're going to have to prepare. Let's say that part of this process is to present to the missions committee. What should you do to prepare? Ask what is the length of time you have to share. It's pretty important. Average time for a missions committee meeting is approximately 10 to 15 minutes. What are the most important things to communicate within that time frame? What did you learn in your research? Leverage what you have in common when planning to speak with them. Now, I'm not suggesting that you make something up, but rather to highlight those parts of your ministry that will resonate with them. And actually, this format is something you can follow, whether you're sharing with a committee, a congregation, or even an individual. You want to communicate your calling, a 2-minute story of a specific moment you knew you were called in to join the ministry. Not every detail of the story, not a chronological history of the story, just a specific moment that charted the course for you to start this ministry. The mission statement, more info from your brochure, like how long the organization has been around, what locations you're in, focus areas for the ministry, the size of the team, these type of things. The need, share information that helps people understand the challenges and problems faced in your area of service. And more important than stats is having a 2-minute story about an individual who illustrates this challenge. A key part of a need story is that it does not solve the problem. We want people to understand what this person's life looks like without Jesus. The hero is only as good as the villain is bad. So if you can't create awareness that a need exists, it's going to be difficult to convince people that the ministry has any relevance. We also want to look at vision, 1 to 2 sentences on what you want to see for the people you're serving. For example, our vision is to see God's multiply laborers and send them into the harvest so that more people can experience the love and freedom of Christ. The impact, a 2-minute story of someone who has been impacted through this ministry. If you don't have a story, find one. Is there someone else there who has a story you can use? Ask field leadership or look at the organization's website. Where else have you heard this strategy being successful? Are there stories there? The beautiful thing about stories is that it doesn't have to be your personal story to be powerful. It just has to be a story about a real person experiencing real change. Financial goals and timeline. Share the specific funding needs. To share Christ with the lost in Japan, we're raising $100,000 this year, or $2,500 a month. Share your timeline and goals to create urgency. We need to raise 50% by May to move into phase 2, 80% by August to apply for our visas, and 100% by December to be fully funded in ministry. As far as having specific amounts, this is difficult with churches because their capacity to give doesn't necessarily match the size of their church. However, we do encourage you to pray about whether you should ask for a specific amount or not. If there is a familiarity there, then having a specific amount can be really effective. But if you are new and the relationship is new, it might be a bit presumptuous to ask for a specific amount. Sometimes churches will ask, how much are you thinking? If they ask you this, you better have a number. Otherwise, you are creating an obstacle to them giving to you, and you want to lower as many obstacles as possible. So pray and share a generous amount for them to consider. And finally, show up early. You know what they say, if you're on time, you're 5 minutes late. Please choose appropriate attire. Feel free to ask the church what it looks like. Traditional conservative churches lean towards a business professional attire. Churches that have a mostly younger congregation may be a lot more casual. But please don't look like you just rolled out of bed and threw on the first thing you could reach. At the very least, you should be put together and intentionally. It can be helpful to show up to a missions committee meeting with some communications material, like your church packet, but you may not be able to afford to have a full packet for each person in the room. But do as much as you can. And remember, whatever you hand out, you want to do after you have spoken, so people are paying attention. Handing it out during a Q&A time might work well, since some people may have questions about your budget, and your handout will answer those things, we hope. If you need to keep it simple, then we recommend at least having a one-page bio, which we saw come up on the screen earlier, that shows your mission, vision, a pie chart budget, and either a recommendation letter from a pastor, or if you don't have one of those, a general fundraising letter geared towards a specific church will work. And make sure at least one of those has your contact information on it.
So, in wrapping up your missions meeting conversation, before you leave the building, don't forget to gather your follow-up information. So, this is the last thing. So here's some questions you need to ask. Who is your main contact moving forward after this meeting? It may not be the same person who connected you. When should you expect to hear from them? You can get a specific date, or you can suggest a specific date, like, if they say, give us a week, okay, great. So could I call you next Wednesday? Mark your calendar and follow up if you don't hear from them by that date. Most definitely. And whether the church partners with you on the spot or later on, there are a few key questions you want to have answered. Number one, when will giving start? How long is the commitment? When is the best time to reapply? Remember, you don't want to miss that limited window. Before I move on, in missions giving culture, usually when we say how long is the commitment, we don't usually ask that because it's usually a lot of times it's in perpetuity if you're planning on just being there forever. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're a 2-year term or a 4-year term. So don't ask when to reapply if you're not sure that maybe the question should be, is there any need for reapplication at any point? Maybe that's the question. And Jessica, let's make that in the notes. Next, can they help you connect with individuals in the churches? Sharing with small groups or Sunday school classes, speaking to the congregation during the service or a prayer night, hosting a fundraising event, referral to other churches. This may not be in the same meeting because I don't like to make more than one ask in a meeting. And actually, this can be a question for churches who can't partner financially. Maybe they can still help connect you to individuals who can. And finally, ask what is the best way to stay in touch. Some churches may have expectations but not clearly communicate them. Is there annual reporting? What information should it include? Are emails okay? How often do you want them? What kinds of things would your congregation want to hear about? Walk away knowing exactly what your communication and relationship needs to look like for that coming year. For those of you who are overseas, it is likely you'll be able to Zoom in during a Sunday morning or evening service. So ask if that is something that they would be interested in having you do. You could also send a short video in place of a live video option, updating the congregation on how God is using them to transform lives and thanking them for their partnership. Um, I thought we were going to cover this, so if we did, stop me. We come into you can get into a situation where you ask a church for a partnership, financial partnership, and they say yes, and they say yes, we'll give $250 a month. We'll give $500 a month. But we don't want you approaching anyone in our congregation individually. But you know about 45 people in that church. And 45 people would probably, after calling them and setting up meetings with half of them, that would probably be around $2,000 a month. Not for sure. It could be more, it could be a little less. But so then what you've done is you have a church partnering with you at $250 a month, and now you cannot ask the people that would have been giving $2,000 a month, which is honestly really sad for them because it's such a blessing to give and to invest in the ministry. So my thinking is to think about it, but my thinking is before you approach a church about getting in their budget, I would actually, yes, they actually do, Melinda. I would go to the individuals first and invite them to partner with you. And then you can go to the pastor. So that is now when you're in some contexts like African American churches or Hispanic churches, that can really, shoot you in the foot because the people you're approaching in the congregation might say, well, have you talked to the pastor first? So I'm really talking more in like a white context. So there's that. Okay, so overall, how do you increase funding from churches? Just be prepared and be intentional. Remember, fundraising is about building relationships and be willing and ready to put the work in. We're going to start answering some questions. And I feel like that was information overload, probably more than any webinar we give, honestly. I was overloaded. But and there's a lot you can take away pieces of it, or you can take away the whole thing. But I want to let you know about a coaching package that we're offering around this webinar. It's a church engagement coaching package. And it's going to be 4 weekly sessions. And then one free 30-minute follow-up session that you get to schedule after you kind of later. So during these 4 weeks, you will work through all of the things that we just went through, which is a lot. And by the end of your 4 weeks, you will have your messaging, your plan. So what churches are you going to, your timeline and strategy, hopefully. You'll just have everything that we went through. You're going to you'll have, it's a lot to put together, a lot to think through. Churches aren't always, their fiscal year isn't always on a December, January. So, doing this at any point in time is still good. If it is in January and you've missed the window, you can still prepare. So we're offering that from this webinar, 4 sessions. And then after those 4 weekly sessions, you can have another 30-minute call with a coach to check in I think we put a time limit on March, February, Jessica,
It was end of February.
into February. So if you want another call, um, by the end of February to check in and see how that strategy is going. If you need to make any adjustments, you can. The cost is $625, which is our normal cost for 4 weeks of coaching. But we're putting in that extra call at no charge. So, um, yeah. So just even one church partnership through this, two, three, four, five church, 20 church partner. I'm just kidding. You know, it's a great investment that is going to have a lot of return for years to come. So would love to see that. Did you put a link in there, Jessica?
I did. I put a link in the chat. If you are interested in signing up for that coaching package, you can click that link, fill out the form, and then I'll get a contract out to you.
Yeah. So would love to help you guys in that regard.
Yeah.
All right. What questions do we have? And I want to take a break from talking. So
Can I,
Jessica,
can I jump in on one of the questions? Oh, sorry, Jessica.
No, go for it, Eileen.
If Russell wants a break, I have a comment. There is a question that says, um, is there a best practice to make connections when you are overseas? Is it nearly impossible to acquire monthly support overseas? I just want to say, for myself, I joined missions in the early 90s because I'm old. And that's when old people joined. But until the June that has just passed, so less than a year ago, I have been overseas. And there was a dramatic change in what that looked like, um, initially in the early 2000s, but as COVID came and went, it dramatically influenced the way people communicate. It is 100% possible to raise your support overseas. We have Zoom, Teams, WhatsApp, all of these things. You just need to be willing to engage in the same way using the facilities available to you. Um, One of the things, I mean, that we do with Tailored is we do walk through your messaging with you to help you with that process. But the reality is it comes down to that relationship and how you develop it, because it still can be. That distance is no longer there. I'm not sure if that answers the questions, but I feel very strongly that it's a relational issue, not
your
a
testimony.
issue.
It's your testimony, right?
Yeah, there you go. That's my testimony today. Amen.
Amen. Okay. What questions do we have, Jessica? Here we go.
Russell, you mentioned a couple of times about getting this in before the church solidifies their budget, and a few people have been asking, like, when is that exactly for most churches?
Well, I don't know, honestly. Do y'all know if there's a
It changes from church to church.
Yeah, it's it's all over the place, but I would say typically I see a lot more early in the year, like January, and then mid-year,
right,
June,
like June?
July.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yep,
Any other thoughts on that?
not really.
I mean,
Uh,
it goes back to asking good questions, right? Like ask them on the front end, like when do you make these decisions so you make sure you have it in time.
if you're making comments in the chat, make sure you've used the drop down to select everyone, because I think these types of questions, like you can just share in here, because I think that'll give us a better idea. I think solidifying budgets, I think we're probably going to be looking around. If I will say this, if it's at the end of if their fiscal year starts in January 1, they're going to be finishing budgets by the end of October probably, because then they vote on them and things like that. But obviously, we're working on the end of October. But what we're saying is not all churches. Some churches, they'll put you in their budget or just start giving it at some point, any point in the year. And some, their fiscal year doesn't start in January. So
Okay. We probably don't have hard data on this, but do you have an estimate of what percentage of cold calls actually result in a partnership?
don't.
Okay.
Do you?
I do not know.
Sure, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
So, but just remember, honestly, I don't think you should get there where you're making cold calls to churches. I know our some of our coaches have had success with that, and that has had to be part of their strategy. But um, it's not very often that that has to be part of your strategy. And some of you are thinking, well, I'm out of contacts, so I'm going to have to do cold calls. I would talk with somebody, talk with me, schedule a discovery call because you're probably not out of contacts, or your contacts you're not thinking of, or areas you're not thinking of. So there's that.
Could you give more examples of categories for the pie chart you mentioned?
Uh, Off the top of my head, Eileen, can you just scroll
Could
back and look at the categories we gave?
Yeah, Drew.
could Drew put up one of the examples again of
There we go.
the one pager? Yeah, so they can kind of see.
I think the next one's actually a
Oh,
pie
I see it.
itself.
Going to the people, staying with the people, meeting spiritual needs. So, yeah, staying with the people would be salary, right? Meeting with the people would be like things outside of salary, insurance, and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I'd have more examples. Let me think. Go to the people, personal needs, meeting spirit. I'm glad everyone's going to see my forehead.
Don't worry, we've seen worse foreheads.
Uh-huh, right.
I
I
think
like the other one better, but
the next one, if he goes the other way, is just a pie chart, which may be easier for people to see.
that
Yeah, if he keeps going.
he being Drew.
Yeah, work with me, Drew. There you go.
That?
There you go.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it doesn't say the titles.
No, it
Sorry.
doesn't say the titles. I was like, where are you going with this, Eileen?
Yeah.
Honestly, so off the top of my head, no, but going to the people, staying with the people. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. And meeting spiritual needs. Um, and then building long-term relationships down at the bottom. So I would really take a look at that one for sure. Um,
One of the things Russell said at the beginning when you were talking about it, Russell, was it's not about the budget, it's about the vision, impact, or need you're reaching. That's what you want to figure out what that is for your pie chart.
yeah. The last two questions, I said, no, I don't know. Don't you love that? Aren't you glad you came for me to tell you that? Okay, what's next, Jessica?
We talk about videos used in services. I've heard that they need to be less than 3 minutes or even 1 minute.
I don't know what you're going to say in 1 minute. Fight for two at least. I don't know, but 3 minutes. Um, Gosh, it really depends. I'm sure it depends on the church. I mean, I'd imagine the larger the church is, the shorter the video is going to be. Um,
I think
uh,
usually when they do that, you already have a relationship with the church. I don't think a church that you've not started a relationship with would ask you to send a 1 or 2 minute video.
yeah. Somebody just said 3 to 5 minutes. I would hope that they would give you at least 3 to 5 minutes. Oh, I need to read some of this stuff in the chat. See, y'all are better at this than I am for sure. We like to say there's more. What is it, Eileen? There is more knowledge in the room than there is up front, meaning you know collectively more than we know. So that's why we like to work together.
Yeah.
So 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, let's say you have 5 minutes. We are going to use statements and it'll flow, trust me. I am serving need, our mission, our vision. That's probably 30 seconds. You're literally gonna say them out loud, like obviously out loud, but like when you say them out loud, they'll probably make more sense strung together than you think. And then I would do a 2 minute story. And we have a storytelling format um, that we use of a 2 minute story. And then a call to action at the end. That is probably going to be the format. You could put in strategy there just a little bit. So like you could go, my name is Servin. Here's the need. Like the the hero is only as great as the villain is bad. So what's the villain? That's the need. And then the mission. Then the strategies are the kind of the actionable points of how you're going to get to the vision. Does the strategy go after the vision or after the mission?
After the vision.
Okay, so mission, vision, strategy. Then you're going to do a 2-minute story. So mission, vision, strategy, name, need, mission, vision, strategy. You can probably do that in a minute then, like, and then you're going to do a 2-minute story, and then you're going to do a call to action. There you go. So tell the story first as a hook. Hey, Jill, you should be leading this webinar. So I love it. And that's something that Eileen and I have trained people on. So I'm glad you said that. Um, yeah, it's always fun to introduce yourself after a story. So the first thing when you pop up on the video, you just start telling a story. You tell the story. After the story, you say, "Hi, my name is Russell, and I serve in," and you can go that way. Great. I love that, Jill. That is that. Yes, yes, please. Great. Come work for me, JK. I mean, not JK. We're taking applications, so maybe. Oh, you learned it from me.
Oh,
Well, thanks for the. That is so funny. Okay, what's the next question?
we have a couple of questions in regards to how much do you ask a church, and do you do a specific amount, or do you wait for them to give an amount? How would you approach that?
Yeah, it's very similar to individuals in that um, one, you can most not much of the time you can know what they're giving to other missionaries. They have a budget out there, right? It's usually a public budget. Not that you can just get it, but you can ask your contact. What do they normally give to missionaries? I mean, there was a church that I attended. They gave 10% of their budget. I don't remember, it's 10, maybe more, to the missionaries that they served. So the more missionaries they had, they of the less each missionary got because it was a pie.
Mhm.
Um, but they may have a range like they give 200 the first year, 500 the next year, whatever. So understanding what to ask for, you may want to ask your contact, your advocate, yeah, if they know of typically what they give.
Mhm.
You can think about the potential capacity. Um, Larger churches, it's more easy to see that they could possibly have um, a larger capacity. For smaller churches, it's really hard to know. Um, but I think your advocate could really tell you a lot about all of that. Now, um, I think you should pray about it. Number one. Second, going into when we saw from everybody, like the average was it $100 to $500 a month?
Yep.
So I might go in and just say, I'm looking for a few churches. I'm looking for 5 churches to give $500 a month. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to be one of those churches. Specific ways to ask. If you go online to our website, scroll down to the footer, there's a link to ebooks, and there's one called How to Get a Generous Response. And it has all the ways you can ask, make an ask. So you may want to grab that. But yeah,
I think churches fit into one of three generally. One, some churches have a set amount they give everybody. It doesn't matter if they're single or a family with 17 children. It's the set amount they give.
which Eileen does have 17 children.
I
I'm
just
just kidding.
just a smidge under, only 5. The other is they give a percentage of your need. which has also been said in the chat. Somebody said like a third. So they may decide we will meet 25% of your need.
Huh.
And the third option are the churches that evaluate each and every individual. So we're going to assess if we give to you, we're going to look at our budget and we're going to see where those two collide in what we can give. And I think often they are the more common.
I mean, that's good feedback, Eileen.
Don't sound too surprised, Russell.
I'm not, honestly. Did my answer about what to ask, did that cover it?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on that, someone else asked, how do you approach a church that's been in partnership with you for a long time for an increase in partnership? How would you go about doing that?
It's very similar. Um, very similar. So you're scheduling a meeting to talk about funding. They already know that they need to know that. You're going to have very similar information, but what the information that you're going to be providing them now is updated. You know, when you started your ministry and what it looks like now is most likely a little different. So it's going to be like, and in your mind, you're thinking, well, they already know this. Trust me, they don't. They really don't. Or at least most everyone in the room is not going to know exactly what's happening in the ministry. So that's what's happening in that packet. That's what's happening in the presentation. When you go through those presentations, it's going to give them a clear perspective. Those changes, uh, the increase could be, um, goodness, it could be one, your ministry is expanding. That could be, or it can be simply, um, what's the word? Inflation. Uh, so, but people understand inflation. So making that ask, my mind is slowing down. Making that ask is really going to be, um, for this ministry to happen in 2026. We are raising an additional $1,000 a month, and we're asking three of our churches to increase their giving by $150 a month. And we were wondering if you'd be willing to do that. So, yeah, loss of partners is a reason. I just like to try to keep it really focused. Really impact focused. Loss of partners is a practical reason. It's not something I'd lead with. Kind of like vision-based budgeting versus accounting budgeting. Like if they want to know if they want to see your line by line accounting, that's fine. If they want to know exactly why you need more money, yeah, we lost partners, we have inflation, those kind of things, but we're not going to put it as part of our ask. I'm not saying that's what you meant, but we're not going to lead with that as, hey, I'm raising money because I lost partners. No, we're raising money because we're reaching people, and so we're increasing our funding. I don't mind you listing those things, in the reason, but they just need to be kind of throwaway, if you will. Like, we're increasing, it happens. We've lost some partners over the last couple of years and inflation. So we're increasing our giving, need to increase giving by $1,000 a month. And that $1,000 a month tied to impact, and then you can make the ask. So
I think mentioning the loss also gives a personal need, not an impact related need or a big vision.
there's so many factors to it. So I don't want you to think like we're like, you have to do it this way because the relationship, right? So we're just kind of giving you some opinions. Your context, we don't, and that's what we do in coaching is help you understand your context and how this is going to work for you. So,
All right, we still have several questions to get through. We're
yeah,
at 10 after.
popping off like flies. So hold
Yeah.
on. Let me just say a couple of things. One, we are looking for coaches, um, English speaking and definitely Spanish speaking coaches. Two, we want to help you gain more church partners. So many of you scheduled a discovery call to talk about that. If you haven't, go ahead and do that or sign up with the link that Jessica just put in there. You can sign up for this coaching package, work with a coach one-on-one for 4 weeks, work through all of this. material and develop a church strategy. Am I missing anything before we start answering questions?
No, I just want to say a lot of people have asked about repeating lists that you guys mentioned or, specifics. We will put out a recording of the video after, so y'all can rewatch it and access that information whenever you want.
Yeah.
Okay, back into specific questions.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
Lyle has asked, he's working on a year in appeal currently. Should he do something to increase church engagement now, or is this not the best time given he's already working on a year in appeal strategy?
You can have two different strategies going on. But your year-end appeal is not going to go to the churches that you are going to be approaching for getting in their budgets. So, yes, the discovery call is always free.
Okay, are churches often supporting workers who are based in the USA, or is it much more difficult to engage churches when you're based in the US?
I missed that. So Eileen or Jessica just answer it.
I think that it is not more difficult if you're based in the US. They're going to support you based on the impact that you're working towards and the vision you have. Location should not be the huge decider in that fact.
It comes up occasionally, right? Some church cultures have this culture of, you know, international overseas, not here missions, but by and large,
Is it recommended to create slides for a presentation?
um, for a group presentation, I don't think it's bad. I just wouldn't have very many of them. Um, so
Keep it simple.
keep it really simple.
Yeah.
I think if you have an engaging and we would help you with this, and this is what we do. I think if you have an engaging, if you're sharing an engaging way, you don't need slides. Slides, I feel like, are just kind of throwaway to me. But now if you have a picture or you're showing a specific video, I can get, I can see that. I'm just not a huge fan of slides. It feels very impersonal to me. I think our coaches are probably all over the board on that, but that's just me because of the way I communicate. Obviously, I'm an amazing communicator. So, just kidding.
I'm not going to comment.
Yeah, I know. On all the times like I had brain freezes today.
You did not.
So
I
anyway,
think if you struggle with communicating, like you get
there's
sidetracked,
a yeah,
or you get a little bit flustered, especially if you're in front of a group, having an iPad, like I have my iPad here, and being able to almost pick it up and say, as you'll see here, and you set it there, opposed to a big slide, is also a way of making sure you're staying on track. So you have to know the type of presenter you are, because
yeah,
you may be a wonderful person, but not have the most dynamic of
yeah. So that's a great
stage
reason.
presence.
That's a great reason. So if you had simple slides like mission,
Mhm.
vision, at least you feel comfortable saying, okay, let's just go to the next slide. Vision, I see that. I see that. Okay, what's the next question?
Also on visual, like using video as an aid, would you, sorry, I'm trying to, if you're really good with video, would you have your initial contact for churches be a testimonial video? And then he reiterated, this is John, um, as in a pre-recorded video story.
Gosh, you're gonna have to answer that. I've been getting so many notifications, I can't.
I personally don't think it's harmful, but you have to remember you're also developing a relationship with them. So what you can do directly yourself, be that a video call if you're not in town, or if a video is great for if it's going in front of a congregation, but you don't want to rely solely on things you send out and that they don't have to engage with you individually, even if you're a great communicator.
100%.
Yeah. What about for people who have been turned down because they're outside of the denomination? Do you have recommendations about this?
You just gotta move on to somewhere else.
Have they
Um,
tried churches within their denomination?
I mean, there's some things you can't control.
Yeah.
And if you're talking, yeah, can you ask the question again?
We've had churches that want to partner but can't because we're not in the denomination. Do you have recommendations for
Oh, I'm
this?
sorry. What's her name? Oh, who asked
This
this?
was Joel.
Joel, I'm sorry. I did not understand that correctly. If the church literally can't partner with you, even though they want to, because of denominational rules or whatever, ask if they can connect you to individuals or classes or things like that. I apologize. I did not understand that, and I just answered very tersely.
The next question, we may need some more clarification on how to approach with unappealing ministries like apologetics to Muslims. This
That
is
is
from
not
Paul.
that's not unappealing. Um, but I think you have what you're talking about, or I think what I would say is, give me a second. Eileen, you're just raring. No,
Curious about what the question was again. It didn't make sense to me.
like ministries that may not be as appealing as others, or as like anti-trafficking can be like really appealing, or working with special needs children is going to be really appealing. But apologetics to Muslims, which I'm assuming is probably what your ministry is, the hero, um, yeah, I don't think it's unappealing at all, but the hero is only as great as the villain is bad. So the hero is Jesus and your ministry, right? So the villain has to be bad, right? So you need to be communicating your need in a very powerful way. Then you have our mission, which is not probably, well, I'm not going to make probable statements. You are going to have your vision is going to be what you want to see God do through your ministry. Then your strategy is apologetics, most likely. And there's a reason why you're using apologetics, and that's part of your strategy. So they're not partnering with you because of apologetics. That is not your main focus. Your main focus is the need in the Muslim community. Your main focus is your mission and your vision. And when you make an ask, it's around. So, and I'm making a lot of assumptions by this one question and just Muslim apologetics to Muslims. But what I'm hearing is apologetics is going to be part of the strategy, which is an important part of your presentation. And what does apologetics mean and how does that work? But it's not the big reason apologetics that people are going to be partnering. There, okay, Eileen, it's your turn.
I'm so sorry.
Are
Um,
you?
I'm not really. I have worked in Muslim ministry for 33 years. So the reality is there have been times in church history in the last 20 years when it has been a sexy ministry. People have been like, we need to get on this. We need to deal with the Muslims. And there have been times when it has been definitely we don't want to be supporting that as a church because we don't want to appear to be against them. It has gone both directions extremely. But the reality is when you're looking at the hero and the villain in the scenario, the villain can never be promoted as the Muslim or that the whole
Oh,
cultural
100.
structure, which is what we see often happening. And the reality is the villain is the lie they believe.
Right.
And that's an important part. But the other side is with apologetics. I love apologetics. But the reality is it is intensely designed to be academic. And a huge amount of people that you will meet with may have the academic capacity to understand it. They are not that interested. They want to know the impact you're having in people's lives, right? So academics is how you're doing it, but the goal is still the impact, as Russell said. And I think that's what we have to. So you make it simple. I see you're an MBB, which is great. Um, but the reality is, I mean, you know a lot about them then. But when you're talking to individuals who are partnering with your ministry, they want to know about those hearts that are being touched, those lives that are being changed.
I
not
love your ministry already.
you what?
Goodness. I said, I love your ministry already,
I-
Paul. Paul, what organization are you with? I probably messed it up in the chat. This is really great. Um,
Can I add one thing to
yeah,
that? I would just say, like, don't underestimate, just as God has called you to this ministry, He's calling other people to partner with you in this ministry. And don't underestimate the work that He's doing in someone else's life to come on board and partner with you. Don't diminish what you're doing and what God has called you to.
and Paul, I've probably spoken with you in person, and if I have, I've just met with a lot of people. So I apologize if I didn't recognize your name.
All right, next question. What is the typical radius of going to meet church staff in person versus Zoom? 2 hours, 3 hours, etc.
It's called return on investment and stewarding your time. If I'm going to meet with a church that has the ability to give $5,000 a year, yes, I will drive 3 hours. If I have the meeting with one church that has the ability to give $10,000 a year, yes, I will fly to that church. Or maybe I have cities where there are several churches. Maybe there's three churches and they could all potentially give $500 a year. When you're setting up a church budget meeting, they should know, or church committee meeting, they should know that you're inviting them to give. Um, this is not a get to know you thing, um, most likely. So it's how much is it going to cost me to get there versus what is the potential. It's a very business thing, but it's also called stewardship of time and resources, which is a very good thing. I know if you need to go, obviously, I think we're below half now of people who were on. But yes, we appreciate everyone being here. We're just answering questions for sure. I should have said goodbye like 20 minutes ago.
Okay, next, Amanda Rojas wrote in. She said, last year we had a family member connect us with a church out of state. They reached out and asked for our basic info and missions agency. Then we were told it would take a few months for them to check into our agency as they had never worked with them before. We never heard back and then found out they had a change in their missions pastor. And then I had a baby, so we failed to follow up. Should we reach out to our contact first or reach out to the new missions pastor or the pastor we briefly emailed last year? We have also changed agencies.
All you, Eileen.
I think you should reach out to them again. I personally think I would reach out um, to the pastor you had emailed in the past, um, letting them know that, hey, time has gone by. This is what's changed in your family. This is what's changed in your ministry. And you'd love to see how you can re-engage with the church.
I think we might need some clarification if the previous pastor is gone or just moved into a new position. Because if they're not at the church anymore, then you might need to take a different avenue. But Amanda, if they're still on staff, then absolutely start with them and ask them to point you in the direction of the new person. Okay. Our churches, oh wait, we already did that one. Is there a timeline in maturing relationship with churches?
Is there a timeline? What?
In maturing a relationship with churches?
I
Feels
mean,
a bit
you
like how
create
long
one.
is a piece of string.
Say that again, Eileen.
Feels a bit like how long is a piece of string. Relationships, you have to have a goal of, maintaining the follow-up and stuff like that. But if a church needs 3 months for their boards to meet and all the rest, you have to allow it so that that timeline can change from church to church.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that's very individual to
Mm-hmm.
church.
It's unfortunate.
Melinda asked, earlier you used the language of referral, or there was another word and she didn't catch what you advocate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Melinda, I think that's what you were asking. If not, type in the chat if there was something else you were referring to, but advocate would be the other term. All right. How about needing funds to be able to contribute to a retirement account, preparing for your future? We talked about that a little bit with the pie chart,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just needs to go under those one of those big categories.
Yeah. Um, okay, last question. Can we sign up for church engagement coaching at a future time? I'm not ready to do it now, but see it as a possibility for the future.
Yes, you can. Is there a place that start date on there or probably not?
For the package, or it should be on the form. If you want to sign up, you can actually go ahead and submit the form and let us know like kind of your target time frame. Yeah.
That'd be great.
All right. That's it.
Russell has got to eat some Chick-fil-A. I'm hungry. So, what?
Russell, I just want to say that earlier you noted that you were impressed that people would agree to a call at noon and that you'd be too hungry. And it was not long after noon when you were like, oh my word.
Yeah, see?
It was great.
Hey, thank y'all for sticking around and looking forward to the next time we get to do this. Y'all take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.